This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Pallet, and I am as dead as TF2 is. Today we're going to be taking a look at the horror of the Madcap Scout version 2.0. This is apparently a creepypasta posted to the Spinpasta Wikia about computer/internet, dream/sleep, file extensions, and video games. So I'm assuming this is about Team Fortress 2, a game that I have 4,000 hours in, and I'm interested in reading it and seeing what creepy things we got going on. Is it going to spook us? We'll find out. Let's get right into it. I feel reluctant to post this here, but after many sleepless nights, I don't know what else to do. I fear that it's too late for me now, but I'm hoping that at the very least I can save the rest of you, so please listen to my tale and heed my warning. So I think that this is going to be updating us about how Team Fortress 2 is a terrible sink of a game that went down poor design choices and is now a shell of its former self. I think that's what he's warning us about, he or she. So let's see what exactly is going on. Exactly 2 weeks ago, I was browsing the Steam Workshop, looking at the latest submissions and rating them. At first, it was like any other day in the workshop. There were a few good submissions here, a few bad ones there, and a small handful of troll submissions. But just as I was about to stop, just as I was about to call it quits and actually play some TF2, a particular submission caught my eye. So what it seems that the story is doing is assuming that we know about the Steam Workshop and Team Fortress 2. So if you don't know about those things, then you're going to be out of the loop. But if they start explaining in excruciating details aspects of Team Fortress 2, that's going to be weird, because you should already know about those things, because the story is assuming you know about those things. Let's see if it stays consistent and picks the path of reader knows about Team Fortress 2 and doesn't sway into reader doesn't know about Team Fortress 2. Now, if you had to guess, you're likely reacting to this picture in the same manner that I did when I first saw it, with laughter. Indeed, it is a very poor model, and a rather silly-looking one at that. However, this deceptively humorous picture is actually quite terrifying, or at least it would be, had you visited this page on Steam Workshop as I did. Its page on Steam Workshop as I did. There is no picture attached to this story. So, yeah. Even now, I still don't have all the answers, but as near as I can tell, but as near as I can figure out, this model and the Steam Workshop page along with it, is cursed. We'll see about that. How cursed how? The first night after I had viewed it was restless and filled with nightmares, and so has been every night since then. I dream of the model from the page chasing me down a long hallway. It does not run, but it glides in midair, relentlessly pursuing me until it at last catches up, and I wake up in my bed safe and sound, and it's all urinated. However, with each passing night, my mind grows weaker and I can feel my sanity ebbing away. So far, everything that we have seen is not supernatural. Everything is something that could actually happen. This kind of thing is a pretty common nightmare. I was about to criticize this for being generic, and it is, in saying, like, come on, everyone's seen that visual, and that's because it's buried deep in the human psyche. Being chased down a long hallway by whatever it is that terrifies you is a pretty common nightmare. I can't recall a nightmare that I've had like that, but I've heard other people say that they've had nightmares along those lines. So nothing too weird there. I'm still wanting to know what the model is since I don't have a picture. Maybe the page deleted it, whatever. Now you may be thinking, it just sounds like you were having a weird nightmare. Just lay off the spicy food before bed and it will go away. But unfortunately, that is not the case, ellipses. So he's, our author, narrator, is trying to dissuade us from believing that. The following night, just after my first nightmare, I experienced a frightening phenomenon while playing Team Fortress 2. I had started the game and was heading to one of my favorite servers, a 24/7 rotation playing server of payload maps. However, once the page had finished loading, I found myself on a strange modded version of the map CTF_2Fort, where it was nighttime with a full moon up in the sky. Why do these stories always fall back to 2Fort? 2Fort is just the map where all the haunted shit happens. That's interesting. TF2 Playdead, another creepypasta, also did that. The map appeared deserted, but upon bringing up the scoreboard, I discovered that there was one other player on the map. Again, this is what happened in Playdead, this other TF2 creepypasta that I read, and it was also about the scout and then the pyro. So I wonder what's happening with that. Madcap Scout, who despite being, so that's the name of the person on the server, who despite being the only player on the server, had gained a few points. At first, I tried to simply exit the map, seeing no point in playing with a single player. Then why did you join in the first place? It would tell you how many players are on there. But when I clicked the disconnect button, nothing would happen. Figuring that it was a glitch, I decided to just play for a minute or two, then try again. That should not be a problem. You should not have problems disconnecting. Why would you assume that it's a glitch or whatever? I walked around the map for a bit. You know what? This is also pulling from Playdead 2, the can't leave thing. I walked around the map for a bit but couldn't find the other player. So I assumed he was just idling, but suddenly, what year is this that they're idling? But suddenly I heard a strange sound coming through the speakers of my headset. It sounded like one of those scout lines, but it was so heavily garbled and digitized that I couldn't make out what he was saying. I quickly turned around and saw him floating there, the model from the workshop, the creature from my nightmares, Madcap Scout. Well, there's nothing too weird about that. You can take those models from the site and mod them into a server, so there's nothing weird about that. This is a thing that can happen, bud. The model looked especially jarring against the far superior model of the map itself. At first, he just floated there like any other model when using that old civilian glitch, so like a T-pose. But then he started to glide towards me, Instinctively, I attempted to puff and sting him, so apparently he's playing as pyro. But neither the flames nor the air blast from my degreaser had any effect on him. He did not catch on fire, nor did the air blast push him back. He just kept advancing forward, completely unscathed. So he would have catched up to you very quick, because the scout is faster than a pyro. I then tried to turn tail and run so that I would regroup, but suddenly the Madcap Scout performed a boo taunt similar to one used by the horseless headless horseman and the ghost of Zephinia Man. I always forget how to say those names. And the Madcap Scout caught up to me. At first nothing happened. He just floated into me and I froze, but then the pyro let out a garbled, digitized scream and exploded into bits. All of this can be explained with modding, except for the not being able to leave the server. The next thing I knew, the screen went black, and I got the infamous HL2.exe has stopped working message on my screen. I tried to restart the game, but it wasn't working. Defragmenting the cache files didn't help either. I had to completely reinstall the game before it could work, and by then, despite my best attempts, I was unable to reconnect to this strange map. Why would you want to? And that's literally the end of the story. So I don't know how this is haunted in any way. They kept talking about there being a haunting. This has horror in its title. The horror of Madcap Scout 2.0. Incredible, interesting, wondering if this is trolling me, but then I remember people really did enjoy TF2 Playdead. And we're scrolling down to some comments and saying that they're enjoying it too. We have Metafockers, who is saying, wow, I actually enjoyed this pasta. This reminds me of the creepypasta called TF2 Playdead. And it looks like the author responded, Mike, thanks. If you if you want, you can check out my other pasta. Okay. So that's really bizarre. It reminds me of TF2 Playdead as well, because it seems to be taking major bits from it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below if you enjoyed this. I'll leave a link to my critique of TF2 Playdead, and you can also check out the Fear Fiction podcast, where myself, Abysme, and Slime Beast read creepy stories paragraph by paragraph and bullshit while we do it. And let's get on to our sponsor of the day, which is the Vintage Texas 10-gallon hat. The Vintage Texas 10-gallon hat. The hat so vintage they called it vintage.